Welcome back to this absolutely dreadful July day. It is 87 in here, and that's what the fan's running. So I am very hot, and the mosquitoes are in full blast. So bug spray, but that is not going to stop us, because if you watched the last one, we left off with getting the radiator in, and it looks good so far, but the next step is going to be mounting the SI fan onto this radiator. There's going to be a little bit of trimming, maybe some brackets. We'll see, but that's the first thing I'm going to tackle. So here's the deal. Everything with the fan looks good. I measured a lot prior and the clearance looked good. The fan spins freely, so there's no issues there. It sits in the mounts fine, and I managed to reuse these locations from the stock Type R fans, and it worked really well. So it's on there secure, and on the surface, it looks really complete and it looks close. And you know, I thought the same, but there's another really big issue that I've run into. So I kind of overlooked the fact that the Type R coolant system is completely different than the SI. And I'm going to try to explain this the best I can. Here's the backside view of the SI radiator. You'll notice you have 2 in and out locations. On the Type R, you have 2 in and out locations. But on the SI, the coolant reservoir flows in here into this pipe, and that's how you fill the system with coolant. And then there's a breather hose at the top, and this lets air out, and this goes back to the reservoir as well. And this lets the air out when you're filling the system. The Type R does not use this system. Now on a Type R, the water pump, which is right here where this belt is, this water pump has a neck right here, and that is used to fill the system. So the coolant would flow from the reservoir down and into the water pump. The water pump would spin, push coolant throughout the system, and then over here on this thermostat housing, there would be another valve at the top here, and this would flow up and into here, and that would be your bleeder. So it would fill here, and the air would come out over here, and that's how the Type R system works. And clearly, I do not have those points, and that's a major issue because there's now no way to fill the coolant system, and there's no way to let the air out. And it sucks because I keep getting so close, and you solve one problem just for another to come up. And of course, that's how it goes on engine swaps, and custom work like this that's gonna happen. And so I talked to Tony for a while about this once again, and I always shout him out, but he's been so helpful, and he sells products that work with the swap, and if you need to reach out to him, here's his Instagram. He kind of helped me explain to me the system and what I just told you guys. And the ideas are at this point that I can either drill into the thermostat housing and the water pump and create a point for that line to connect to, but that means I have to take off the water pump and thermostat housing, drill into it, either put threads into it or weld some sort of fitting onto there, and both of which are going to be a lot of work. And another issue with when it comes to welding is I have a MIG welder here, but there is no TIG welder because this is a body shop, and MIG welding uses a much lower voltage compared to TIG welding, and if you use TIG welding on a chassis, then it fries the whole car. So kind of need a TIG welder for a lot, or kind of need a TIG welder for a lot of this stuff, and it's another problem. And another option I was looking at, simply buy the Type R housing. Now the issue is that it's pretty damn expensive. And I'd have to take it all off, put that in, and I'm not even sure 100% if it would fit. And that's one option that's on my mind right now. I was also thinking, could I add some sort of fill and bleed point on the radiator, similar to the SI, how that one works? And I'm not sure. So it sucks so much to get this close and to run into these type of issues. And it was a big oversight on my part. I should have really understood how different the coolant systems were. And now I need to figure this out. So while I try to make a decision on this situation, a couple other things I want to do in the meantime is I'm going to install this clutch line, and I also just got my reverse flow hoses from Acuity, so test those, see how they fit. Good news is these seem to fit pretty well even with the aftermarket radiator and SI fan. Clearance looks pretty good, and the cool thing about these is that they're not just silicone couplers. And you're gonna notice that it looks a little weird how they snake around, and that's because it literally reverses the flow. So instead of flowing from the top down to the bottom, it's going to flow from the bottom up to the top. And that's gonna help with cooling, and Acuity has some really cool science behind it, where the radiator is placed and why you want the hot water coming in the bottom and going up. So you can check out the website if you wanna see that, but hopefully this will help a lot with potential overheating issues. After some deliberation, there are some conclusions that can be drawn, and it comes down to three choices. Option one, modify the existing water pump and thermostat housing, which I'm gonna scratch off right away. It doesn't make sense for the amount of work there is. Option two, replace them with the Type R housing. And I checked, and from what I've seen, the gaskets are the same, so the water pump, the thermostat, everything should be interchangeable, and that is a decent option that could work. But there's actually a third, much more simple option that I didn't even realize at first, and that means adding a cap onto this. Now you may notice the reservoir is missing, and that is because doing this will completely remove the reservoir system. So what I'm planning to do is cut a hole in the radiator here, weld on a cap so that you'll be able to fill it from the radiator and you won't have that reservoir at all. And there's gonna be a little bleeder on there, and this simple solution should solve all the issues. And it makes it for a much nicer, clean look in my opinion. A little bit different without the reservoir there. And I mentioned before, I don't have a TIG welder, and luckily I have a guy down the street who's willing to help out. No big deal, weld that cap on, and just like that, that should fix the entire cooling issue. And once that's solved, then can move through with the rest of it. This now means waiting for more parts, because I love waiting for parts so much. And I'm gonna upload this video now, so you guys have a little bit of an update as to what's going on, and you don't have to wait as long. Please consider liking and subscribing if you want to follow along. I appreciate everybody hanging in there, helping out, and being patient while we finish up these last few steps. So hopefully that goes well, and wrap it up in the next video. Thank you guys for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.